Good morning, everyone. A warm welcome and thank you for joining us. If you could just give us a minute or two, we still have other attendees joining in. So if we can just allow them a little bit of time to join in, and we will resume in about a minute or two. Thank you. Great. I think we're ready to go. We can go ahead. Nez, are you comfortable with us going ahead? Penny, as well on your side, can we go ahead? The session is recorded anyway, so whoever joins in a little bit late will also have an opportunity to come back and listen to the rest of the session. So if everything is fine with everyone, I am happy to go ahead because we only have about 2 hours to complete everything we want to discuss. So we might as well just start now. So yeah, a very good morning to everyone and a warm welcome to our very first webinar of the year. My name is Bianca Moyo and I'm the Senior Communications Manager at SALT EB. We're very excited to have you join us today to discuss some of the topical matters concerning your retirement fund. So whether you're joining from the office or from home, we appreciate your time as well as your participation. I'm also pleased to share that we have two of our esteemed speakers, Ms. Penny Spenzoras, the Legal and Risk Officer at Transport Sector Retirement Fund, as well as the Chief Experience Officer at SALT Employee Benefits, Ms. Nestle Seegers. But before we start, I would like to share some few housekeeping rules to ensure we have a smooth and engaging session. So for starters, please ensure that your mics are always on mute. Your camera is also closed off. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them on the chat box as well as the Q&A session. We will attend to those after the session, which is now during the Q&A session. We will also be hosting a couple of polls during the session. Please, we invite you to respond to those polls so that we can hear from your end in terms of whether you know your benefits, how you're feeling today. But please do engage using those polls that will appear on your screen. And lastly, the webinar is actually recorded and we will share the slides at the end of the session. So please feel free to engage as much as you can. But great, in terms of today's agenda, Nez, if you can maybe move on. Oh, yes, I can see that. Before we do the 2024 key lessons and takeaways, we will have just a brief word from the fund, which will be done by our legal officer, Ms. Penny Spenzoras, who will just take us through in terms of what the fund would like to share with us. And then after that, I will hand over to our Chief Experience Officer, Ms. Nestle Seegers, who will then actually share the 2024 key lessons and takeaways. We'll also move on to share and discuss your retirement fund benefits. And after that, we'll also give you an update on the two-pot system since its implementation from last year in September. And then we'll close off by having a Q&A. So we have about 2 hours to cover that. And yeah, over to you, Penny. Thank you once again. Penny, over to you.
Thank you so much, Bianca, and good morning. Good morning, everyone. I suppose let me put my camera on, might be a good idea so you can see my face. You can see me, Bianca? You set me up.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. So, welcome to our first webinar of 2025 for the Transport Sector Retirement Fund. As Bianca said, my name is Penny Spenzouris, and I'm the Legal and Risk Officer of the fund. So it's a great pleasure to have you all with us today. Our valued members, I know we've got quite a wide range of representation. So we've got members, participating employers, union officials, and of course our trusted service providers. Thank you all for taking this time to join us as we continue our journey of ensuring financial security for those who keep the transport sector moving. Your attendance at this webinar today is a testament to your commitment to safeguarding and growing the retirement savings of our members. During today's webinar, as Bianca has already said, we will be covering key takeaways, key information for both members and employers regarding death benefits, disability benefits, retirement benefits, and the inevitable questions and update on two-part system. These are critical aspects of the fund, ensuring financial security for our members and their families in different life circumstances. Death benefits, it's important to remember death benefits provide financial support to loved ones of a member in the unfortunate event of them passing. Disability benefits for financial assistance to members who become incapacitated and are unable to work. And of course, retirement benefits that ensure members receive the necessary support to enjoy a comfortable and secure retirement. It is essential for both members and employers to fully understand the benefits, processes, requirements, and responsibilities relating to these provisions. This knowledge helps to ensure that members and their dependents receive the support that they are entitled to without unnecessary delays. And we do emphasize that without unnecessary delays. We try our utmost to ensure that our members and their beneficiaries and dependents are not prejudiced. At TSRF, we place a strong emphasis on Section 13A of the Pension Funds Act, which ensures that all members' contributions are paid on time and in full. Our priority is to protect the hard-earned retirement savings of our members. So this is to ensure they can look forward to a comfortable future. Our approach in our Section 13A process is one of collaboration, and I need to emphasize this. Even though it is a regulatory and a legal process, we do focus on collaboration, and we would like to work on the collaborative relationship with our participating employers. We work closely with our partners, especially you as our participating employers, to address compliance in a constructive and solution-driven manner. We understand challenges arise. We really do. And rather than taking an adversarial approach, we'd rather focus on building our relationship with you as employers. We encourage any employer facing difficulties in meeting their obligations to reach out to the fund so we can assist you in resolving these challenges together. Together we can find a way, and don't leave it too long. As soon as you see that you've got a problem, we really request our employers to get hold of us. After all, isn't our shared goal to act in the best interest of our members? Once again, thank you for your time and interest in today's session. Thank you for SALT for hosting this and setting up this process and sending out invitations. We hope that this webinar will enhance your understanding of the fund and the important role we all play in securing our members and their families' futures. Every little bit that we can help and contribute to that will make a difference. We look forward to a productive and engaging discussion and encourage you to participate and actively engage. No question is a silly question, and I'm sure if you've got a question or a comment, somebody else has the same. We are here to address those and clarify those. Thank you, Bianca. I think now, Naz, Bianca, we can get started. Thank you, everybody.
Great stuff. Thank you so much, Penny. What a great way to start the webinar. And definitely it is, your contribution is very much invaluable. Now moving on to the gist of the discussion today, which is now, which will be presented our Chief Experience Officer, Ms. Nesli Seegers. Nes, over to you. But firstly, we would like to launch a poll just to find out how are you feeling today. So I'm going to go ahead, launch the poll. If it's not appearing on your screen, please go through to the chat box and give us your feedback there. How are you feeling today? Are you top of the world? Are you feeling on top of the world? Are you okay? Or you just need a lift me up coffee? But as for me, I am feeling on top of the world this morning. And I hope it's going to be like that for the rest of the week. So if you can please give us your feedback on that in terms of how you're feeling before we start off the session, and we will, great stuff. The results are coming in.
Thanks, B. Morning, everyone. While you're busy deciding how you're feeling this morning, my name is Naz Seegers. I'm the Chief Experience Officer for SALT Employee Benefits. We are the administrator for the Transport Sector Retirement Fund. Thank you, Penny. Thanks for those insightful comments and sharing that the fund is always willing to help both members and employers in the sector. I think it's always encouraging to know that the fund wants to take hands and work together towards a successful future for members in the industry. Hopefully you're all feeling on top of the world today. I know that the weather isn't looking fantastic in Johannesburg, but I'm sure that you're dialing in from all corners of the country, and hopefully there's sunshine somewhere out there. Otherwise, we plan to bring a little bit to you hopefully this morning. Not any more rain. Bianca, what's it saying? How are we looking so far?
Okay, so 41% say they are like me, they're on top of the world.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yes, 48% they say they are okay, they're doing very fine. And then just 11% do need that virtual coffee.
Okay. Well, I guess we better get the virtual barista up and working. At least it's only 11%. So hopefully the top of the world becomes infectious and everybody's feeling good by the time we're done with the presentation. Okay, I think let's jump right in. We know that it is already March. The year is flying. I can't believe it's already March, almost the middle of March. But because it's our first webinar for the year, we thought it would be, important to look back at 2024 and just all of the things that are happening or happened last year. So we continue to see an evolving retirement landscape. You will recall or won't recall, but in 2018, 2019, we saw the introduction of the default regulations, and that brought about that change in terms of the vested and the non-vested parts. So basically what that did was align provident funds to pension funds and how they work. Fast forward, we saw the introduction of the two-pot legislation that, of course, went live eventually in September last year. And so we saw that come through with all of the swapping of pots and explaining. Listen, we talked about so many pots last year. I thought I was a chef. So with 2 pots and 4 pots and 3 pots, we saw that whole change take place in the retirement industry last year. And then we are very well aware that the FSCA is planning to activate the COFI bill in the next couple of months or years. So there's that change coming. We're also expecting a change to the legislation that gave rise to two-pot. You'll recall that the current legislation excludes retrenchment as a reason to access that retirement pot. The retirement pot is locked up until retirement age. The earliest you therefore can claim from that pot is 55. And so members are saying, but what if they get retrenched and they can't get re-employed, survival today rather than at 55, they might not make it. So we know that government is being lobbied to look at that legislation. So those changes might come through. We've also got a conduct standard on cybersecurity that's out from the FSCA, which is being implemented in the sector, affecting both funds and their administrators and really role players in the industry. There's also a new conduct standard out from the FSCA on member education in the landscape. And so we're seeing lots of legislation come down. And of course, that means a lot of work for funds and their administrators to make sure that they can keep up and ensure that they are compliant with that legislation. So the fund will continue to communicate. I think they do a great job, and that would be confirmed by the next point, which is that the fund received the 2024 IRFA award. Now, maybe to some of you that means nothing, but let me just clarify. The IRFA is the Institute for Retirement Funds in Africa, and the TSRF has successfully been winning awards for many, many years. But in 2024, we're highlighting that again, the fund won an award. So they've won awards for communication, for best fund in sector, for many, many awards. And so congratulations to Penny and the team for bagging another IRFA award. I think it talks to the best practices that the PO and his team continue to implement. They're always looking to improve benefits, to ensure that members are communicated to, that members understand what's available for them, that employers are engaged and helped towards compliance where they are non-compliant. Further, there's a newly launched truck stop. Pen, if you can help me, I think this one is in the Eastern Cape, right?
Correct. Yeah, Naz.
Yeah. So we've got one out in Harrismith, and then we've now got the one in the Eastern Cape. And what that does is it allows the drivers to stop. It's a safe place to sleep. They can get some snacks. Pen, am I leaving anything out there?
Yeah, there's safe places for the drivers to rest. There's also, I think there's exercise facilities, so there's a bit of recreation facility. And I haven't been to the new one, but the one in Harrismith has even got a little clinic or health facilities. So, if there's blood pressure, which a lot of the drivers suffer with, high blood pressure, sugar problems. So I think there's that facility available. We'll see when we visit the new one as well. So we're trying to aim at that as well, like a wellness little clinic as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Pen. So for the employers on the webinar and for the members on the webinar, I think those truck stops are on the website. Alternatively, we can send you those addresses. Please, if your drivers are using those routes, encourage them to stop at the fund's truck stop. So for TSRF, it's not only about, while our main purpose is providing a sufficient retirement benefit, the fund is also cognizant of the fact that they need to add value while the member is contributing. And so that's where the truck stops come from. It's where the communication channels come from. And so the truck stop is just one of the endeavors of the fund to ensure that members see value before retirement age. The next one is diversifying our communication channels, both digital and traditional. We're very proud to say that TSRF has almost an 80% uptake on active members that are utilizing our member portal. Benefit statements are distributed via that portal. The information we're talking about today in terms of risk benefits, so your death and disability information, your funeral information, contribution information, all of the circulars, claiming for two-pot, all of that sits on that member channel. And so the fund has had a phenomenal run in getting their members utilizing those channels. In addition, the fund does understand that not all members will utilize the digital channels. And so posters are put up at walk-in centers where employers require them. The bigger employers that have drivers coming through quite often, we send posters out to the employers as well. The fund updates its member booklets, its benefit booklets annually. And so we're very happy that from a communication point of view, the fund is addressing member needs. If there's anything we can improve, we're always open to hear what your thoughts are so that we can improve. But we're very happy that for Two-Pot, we saw that a lot of our members are actually digital. 100% of our claims came in digitally for Two-Pot. And I think the number is 98% of those were lodged by members themselves. So in 2% of the cases, it may have come in digitally, but it would have been via our assisted channel in our front offices. But 98% of it, the members utilized their own cell phones or laptops or desktops to put the claims in. And so members are definitely getting our communication. I think a point to note there is that for Two-Pot, we didn't open on the 1st of September. We opened on I think it was the second week in September. And it was very quiet on the 1st of September. We were expecting a barrage of members in our offices, but there wasn't. And the day that we said we were opening, we saw the queues come through. So our members definitely are listening and engaging with us via Facebook and our member portal, etc. We also have a full WhatsApp functionality for our members, and we'll take you through that later in the presentation. And then improved claims processing system. We saw a massive amount of success with Two-Pot, and we'll go into those numbers later on. And also the ability for members to claim remotely. So not, that they don't have to necessarily travel into one of our walk-in centers. They can claim from where they are. So what we're looking to do is to mirror the Two-Pot technology for normal claims to allow members to claim from wherever they are so that they don't need to travel into the systems. Our validations are built into Home Affairs, to the banking systems, etc. And so all of that can be done remotely. And it will, I think, specifically in an industry where people are highly mobile, it's something that the fund is very proud of, that they were able to service their members from wherever they were for Two-Pot. And so we're looking to expand that to normal withdrawal claims at this point in time, and then we'll look at risk claims later on. So yeah, all in all, 2024 was a very successful year for TSRF. We haven't touched on investments and things like that, but those all did well as well. We wanted to focus on our key lessons and takeaways. It's more the new technology that was launched in terms of claims, the newly launched truck stop to bring awareness to that. There are lots of changes happening in the retirement landscape, but we encourage you to talk to us. We're happy to give you information on that, to advise you that the fund remains compliant and is working towards compliance every single day together with Penny, who is the legal officer for the fund. And basically that you're part of an award-winning fund. Penny, is there anything you'd like to add before I move on to the content?
Sorry, Naz, I couldn't unmute myself. Still, that's the worst problem on these things. No, I think you've covered everything. Thanks, Naz.
Okay, thanks, my pen. All right, let's go. So today we're talking about benefits, the stuff that we benefit from the fund. So let's do another poll just to make sure I didn't put you to sleep with the previous presentation. The question is, how well do you know your benefits? Bianca will launch the poll now. Very well means that you don't need to be listening to me today. You could probably give the presentation on my behalf. I know a little means that you know enough to get by, but you'd like more information. And I don't know at all means you've got to make sure that you've got coffee in front of you so that I can help you to know them very well. B, have we launched the poll?
Yes, we have, Naz. Thank you. The results are coming in. So those who may not see the poll on their screen, please feel free to go to your chat box. You'll be able to see the poll there, and then you can give us your feedback.
Okay. I think it's important to be honest. I mean, there's no judgment. If you don't know them at all, this is why the fund does webinars, so that we can engage our members, our employers, our trade unions, our employer organizations, all our stakeholders, to make sure that we are communicating, that if there are questions that need clarity, that we can answer those. We want you to know that we're a partner on your journey to retirement. We're not this black hole that you sort of pay money into that only talks to you when you're ready to retire at some point. We want to be an active participant in your retirement journey. And so we encourage you to talk to us and be honest with us and give us honest feedback and tell us where we can improve. That's what these sessions are for. Okay, the results are coming in, B?
Yes, yes. Maybe we can just give it a minute or two, but
Sure.
yeah, we have received quite a number of response.
Happiness. How many people do we have in the session for interest sake?
We have 55. We have received 30 responses for now.
Fabulous. Let's give it a little bit more time.
Yeah.
And there's no shame in saying you don't know it at all. And we won't give you a pop quiz if you say you know it very well. You're protected.
Yeah.
And
it's anonymous anyway.
Okay, okay. So you see, we definitely can't give you an exam at the end of it.
Great. Perhaps we can share the results. I think they're stable now. So
Sure.
we have 13% saying they know the benefits very well. And
Fabulous.
a huge 84%, they say they know a little, and only 3% say they don't know at all.
Fantastic. So Penny Outcomes is working. We only have 3% saying they don't know at all. So let's attack that 84% that says they know a little. And for those that know it very well, the 18%, feel free to correct me if I say something incorrect. Okay. So the fund has 4 benefits. I think if you look in the top left-hand corner, it is a retirement fund. It's called the Transport Sector Retirement Fund. And so a retirement benefit is really what we're saving for here. That's our main aim in life. Below that, we've got the savings or withdrawal benefit. And then on the top right-hand side, we have a funeral benefit, which we're differentiating from our risk benefits, which are death and disability benefits. So those are the 4 benefits that we've got. In terms of risk benefits, these are value-added benefits offered by the fund to protect you and your family's income if you are injured or should you pass away while you are an active member of the fund. So in this basket, we've got the death benefit, and that applies to the main member as well as permanent disability. Both of these members apply only to the main member, and it must be an actively contributing member of the fund. You'll recall earlier that the legal officer of the fund reminded us that where there are no active contributions to the fund and the employer is not compliant, you as the employer will be held liable in the event of the death of a member who should have been covered by the death and disability benefits of the fund, but are not due to non-compliance, meaning due to non-payment of the contributions. All right, let's unpack the death and disability benefits a little more. So these are the risk benefits for that 84% that knows a little. They're called risk benefits because they're basically insurance benefits, meaning that there's an incident that leads to it. So death or permanent disability is covered by the fund. I'm going to unpack those for you now. So death benefit in the unfortunate event of a member passing away. The TSRF pays out a benefit of 3 times the member's annual salary. So that is the example at the bottom. If a member's monthly salary is 15,000 Rand, and that's what he earns on a monthly basis, and we're trying to calculate the annual salary, then we multiply it by 12 because there's 12 months in a year. That's what gives us annual. So it's 15 times 12. So the annual salary becomes 180,000. And remember, we said it's a member's annual salary times 3. So it's 180,000 times 3. So that's 540,000 will be the insured benefit. So now remember, the fund runs a self-insured benefit, meaning that they self-insure. This doesn't sit with an external insurer. So the 540,000 is paid by the fund from their self-insurance reserve. And added to that is the accumulated retirement savings. Now, the 540,000 is only payable if the employer is up to date with contributions, the member is registered and actively contributing to the fund at the time of death. All right, so that's the 540,000. The accumulated retirement savings is all the money that's sitting with the fund at that point in time that they've saved. So that's whatever's in when you log into the member portal for the members, or when you look at the benefit statement, that will be your accumulated retirement savings. We add to that a benefit of 540,000, and then what happens is, sorry, I just want to just see. Okay, it's not sitting here. Then what happens is the trustees will have a look at it and they will identify your beneficiaries and your dependents, and they will distribute the benefit accordingly. So it's not like your normal life insurance where you take out a life insurance policy and you write down your side chick's name, and when in the event of your passing, then automatically the insurer will pay everything to the side chick because that's the form you filled out. In the event of a member passing on a retirement fund, this is an approved benefit. It means that we will take into account that beneficiary nomination form, and we're asking both employers and members, please make sure that you've got these updated. Please, please, please make sure. And if you want, you can send it to the fund and we'll save it on your record if you're not sure that the employer will have a copy at the time of your death. Complete them. They're available on the fund's website. Bianca can send them out as part of the presentation pack. Please, please, please make sure. So those forms are important because it lets the trustees know what your wishes are. But if your wish, if you're a married man, I'm going to pick on the males here. If you're a married man and you have a wife and 3 children, and you write on that form that everything must go to this beautiful 18-year-old that you met the other day, because now you're very in love, the trustees will take it into account, but they won't necessarily pay everything to the 18-year-old, if anything at all. They look at dependency. So they look at who was dependent on you and who you were responsible for, and they will allocate that benefit accordingly. Okay, and that's the trustee's responsibility in terms of Section 37C of the Act. It's also important to note that this benefit ceases at age 65. So members that are over 65, they are not entitled to a death benefit. At this point in time, the additional money is sent straight into their savings account, but they are not entitled to a death or disability benefit. Disability benefits: in the unfortunate event of a member becoming disabled due to an accident or illness, and the next part is important, and they are unable to perform their own or any occupation, the benefit will be paid by the fund. So own or any is the part we want to emphasize and explain in this presentation. Now we understand that being a truck driver is a specialized profession, and that members may sometimes get disabled and not be able to be a truck driver anymore. The definition on the fund at this point in time is own or any occupation, meaning that even if the member is disabled, but he is disabled for own occupation, meaning that he can't be a truck driver anymore, but he could be a control room operator or a receptionist or a packer. If there's any other occupation that he could potentially take up, then the fund will not approve a permanent disability claim. Okay, so the member must be unable to perform any occupation, meaning that they are unable to work. All disability claims require medical evidence proving your disability, and the final approval for disability claims is done by the fund's appointed medical provider. So what they'll do is they'll make a recommendation to the fund. The fund will send out a letter either repudiating the benefit or confirming the benefit. The payout is calculated in the same way: the member's annual salary times 3 plus the full retirement fund savings received. Remember that the disability benefit is an acceleration of your death benefit. What that means is, if a member applies for disability, right, and let's say the claim is in process, it hasn't been approved yet, let's say he's in assessment stage, we're still trying to determine whether or not it's permanent disability, and the member passes away, that benefit will not be paid in terms of a disability. It will be converted to a death benefit claim. It will still be the same: member's annual salary times 3 plus the full retirement fund savings received. And the trustees will then distribute to the member's dependents. It won't be 2 different benefits. It will be a single benefit. The disability benefit is an acceleration of the death benefit. It's also important, so let's understand the calculation. It's still the 15,000. We're using the same example. So 15,000 times 12 months is the 180,000, times 3 is the 540,000. So we'll add that to the total retirement savings. And then let's say that on the date of the claim submission, your retirement fund savings was 165,000. Then that will mean a disability benefit of 705,000. Again, we remind you that this benefit ceases at age 65. Members are no longer entitled to disability after age 65. And this is what we call a capital disability benefit. That means that when we pay the disability benefit, the relationship between the fund and the member comes to an end. It's an exit from the fund. We've settled our account with you. We've paid your savings. We've paid your insurance benefit, and the relationship is severed. Okay, like I said, should a member pass away during the claim process, their benefit will no longer be treated as a disability claim. It becomes a 37C death claim, which is governed by the Pension Funds Act, and the trustees will determine the fair distribution of benefits among the dependents and nominees. It is critical for members to keep their beneficiary nomination forms updated. But like I said, if you're giving it to the hot young chick that you met last week and the trustees find out that you have a wife and 3 kids, or better yet, this is South Africa, 2 wives and 6 kids, we definitely will look at the 2 wives and 6 kids before we give the hot young thing that you met last week the whole benefit. Okay, what's important to note is that when the disability benefit is approved, so whether or not we pay an insurance benefit, if the person leaves the fund for disability, so they're now not going to contribute, they won't be actively employed anymore, there is no longer a death benefit payable. The fund has ceased its relationship by paying that claim, so there's no longer a death benefit payable. Okay, again, just to reiterate, it's highly important to note that all risk benefits are paid out, provided that contributions are paid on time and are up to date. Okay, where contributions are not up to date, the respective employer will be liable to pay the full risk benefits. So let's look at it quickly. If we go back and we look at this calculation, the monthly salary is 15,000. On TSRF, we have a 10% contribution rate, right? So what, Mr. Employer, we're asking you to pay 1,500 Rand a month, right? For the member. In the event that you don't pay the 1,500 Rand a month for the 10%, yeah, then you will be asked to pay 540,000 Rand for that member in the event of either their death or disability. So the sum is really 1,500 versus 540,000. I think it's critical to remember to pay your contributions. A member may only claim the disability benefit once for the same medical condition. No further claims will be permitted for the same condition. So if a member is permanently disabled, let's say the member has cancer, let's say it's pancreatic cancer, they apply for disability because they're really sick and the fund pays the disability benefit, and the member goes and he rests and he heals, and for some reason the cancer goes into remission and he makes a full recovery and the cancer's in remission. And he starts driving again because he's able to work again, he's healed completely, then the member will be allowed back onto the fund and even be allowed back onto the fund for risk benefits. But he won't be able to claim for pancreatic cancer again. So let's say that these are truck drivers and there's an accident and he loses his leg. That would be a different disability claim, and so the fund would look at that claim and its merits. But you won't be able to claim for pancreatic cancer because the fund has already paid a disability benefit for that medical condition. Okay, funeral benefits. So the funeral benefit is paid to help with funeral expenses when the member passes on, and it is extended. So remember I said on death and disability, we only pay for the member, the actively contributing member. In the case of the funeral benefit, it's extended to the member's immediate family members. Right? So that is the spouse and the legally adopted or biological children of the member. So it's not Fatensa children, etc. The member must be able to prove that they are the parent of the child. If you exit the fund, you will no longer be covered for or be able to claim for funeral benefits, and the funeral benefit ceases at age 70. So that continues to age 70. Again, for all contributing members. So if you stop contributing at age 65, the funeral benefit won't continue to age 70. It will stop at age 65 when you leave the fund. All right. So the funeral benefit here, TSRF has one of the higher benefits in industry funds. So the main member is entitled to 65,000, as is the spouse. Children aged 14 to 21 is 48,000. We can extend for kids up to age 26. You will have to, however, provide proof of registration and studies for your children that are still studying. Then 6 to 13 is 13,000, and it goes on a sliding scale from there. And it's important, again, I'm saying spouses, we've got to confirm with either a traditional marriage certificate, a civil marriage, or some sort of lobola letter. There must be some confirmation that this is your spouse. For children, it is only biological or legally adopted kids. So again, not the fat and sit children. It is the biological or legally adopted kids. Okay, an active member. So a member who is currently contributing to the fund. An immediate family member is your spouse and your children, again, biological or legally adopted. And then if they are full-time students, they'll go up to the age of 26, as well as a disabled child. A spouse means a husband or wife married to the member by law, tribal custom, or the tenets of any religion. A common law, husband or wife of the member residing with the member. So all of this will need proof of. And then again, South Africa recognizes same-sex marriages. So a person of the same gender residing with a member who is regarded by themselves and the community as a common law couple shall also be regarded as a spouse. So we'll see that the fund is very progressive. All right, retirement benefit. On retirement, members receive the total accumulated retirement fund savings and interest. The retirement age for the Transport Sector Retirement Fund is 65 years. And on retirement, the member will receive funds from all the pots. So vested, non-vested, retirement, and savings. Whichever of these pots have positive values in them, that will be paid out to the member. Now you'll see here the retirement pot, for example, has 0 in it for this member. So the non-vested and the savings pots, etc., will be what is paid out. Now, it's important to note that the money in the savings and vested pots can be withdrawn as cash at retirement. You can take that money in cash. But if your total savings are more than 247,500, then only 1/3 of that is available in cash. That is from your non-vested and your retirement pots. The remaining 2/3 must be utilized to purchase an annuity. And what an annuity is basically that you pay the money to an insurer and the insurer will pay you a monthly income depending on your needs, etc. They'll do an assessment with you. Now, it's important to note that TSRF does have an approved panel of retirement annuity providers, but the member is able to utilize their own annuity provider if they choose not to use ours. It's also important to note that the fund provides pre-retirement counseling services through the Benefit Counselor app to members nearing retirement. And so on the app, members are able to do calculations, and if need be, they can press a button on the app and somebody will contact them to help them with their pre-retirement counseling services to help them through. Also, as a note for employers, members 6 months to retirement should be receiving a letter from the administrator. Members 12 months to retirement should be receiving a letter saying that they're nearing retirement age. They must, look at their options and make the relevant preparations. Okay, so let's talk about the member at retirement. So a member who has non-vested and retirement pots, which have 460,000 in them. The 1/3 is 153,000 in cash. That's what they can access. Remember, you don't have to. You can take the entire amount and buy an annuity, which would be preferable. The remaining 2/3 is the 306,000. Let's say the member really wants the 153,000 in cash. The remaining 2/3, which is the 306,000, the member must purchase an annuity. Like we said, the fund does have preferred providers, but if you would prefer to utilize your own provider, then that is also up to you. Then the money from the vested and savings pots can be withdrawn as cash. And so that's what we're encouraging is if you want to, then take your vested and savings pots in cash. But please, please, please try and utilize your money at retirement to buy an annuity, which guarantees you income for some period. Okay, so that's retirement. The big difference between retirement and withdrawal benefits is obviously the way the benefits are taxed, and also that at withdrawal, you cannot access your retirement pot. At retirement, you can access that retirement pot. So a withdrawal benefit is only paid out when a member resigns, absconds, is dismissed or retrenched. However, if that happens and the member finds another job within the transport sector, then we won't be able to pay this benefit, right? Because you're back in industry, and so we'll swap it to the new employer. Remember, our main goal here is to ensure that you have a benefit, or that your members have a benefit at retirement. It's not supposed to be a short-term savings scheme. It's meant to ensure that at retirement, there's a sizable amount of money that the member can utilize to live off when they can't produce income anymore for those non-income producing years. Okay. So in the event that the member is leaving and he's not back in industry, then the fund pays up the total amount of contributions received plus the accumulated interest. This benefit consists of funds accumulated in the non-vested, vested, and savings pots. You will recall last year when the legislation came in, part of what the legislation did was it guaranteed your rights on the non-vested and vested pots. So all of the savings up until the 1st of September last year that you had, you would be able to withdraw in cash if you left the fund. Those rights remain. What you can't access is your funds in your retirement pot. Those will remain restricted until retirement. Okay. Also, for the savings pot, remember that if you've withdrawn from the savings pot already for the year, and the money in your savings pot that's left there is more than 2,000, that money remains with the retirement pot at the current fund, unless you're transferring to a new fund, in which case we'll transfer all the pots. But if you're just exiting and you're not going to a new fund, and the savings pot is more than 2,000 and you've already withdrawn in the year, that money stays with the fund, and only when the new tax year kicks in will you be able to claim it. All right. Added benefits. This is particularly applicable, I think, in this industry because we have members traveling all the time. So where a member, a spouse, or a child pass away in an area that is more than 50 kilometers away from the primary residence, the fund's insurer will carry the cost of the repatriation of the body to the primary residence. The transportation extends to the rest of the SADC countries, meaning that if it's a Zim or a Botswana or a Namibia or Swaziland or Lesotho or Maputo, then we will transport the body home, and claimants are limited to 20,000 per annum per family. Okay, so it's important. Please remember that the repatriation must be done by the fund's funeral provider. The family can't transport the body on their own and claim for it afterwards. Okay, so while we limit it to 20,000 per annum, it's via this provider. It's not a expenditure and then a refund. It means that we provide the actual service, not a refund. Okay. Next value-added service from the fund is pension-backed home loans. So the fund offers loans for housing purposes through FNB. This enables members to utilize 60% of their benefits to either purchase a new home, buy land, build a new house, or do renovations or maintenance on your existing home. Loan repayments are deducted from the member's salary by their employer. That's probably our biggest challenge, is that members don't want to add, or employers don't want to add this as a line from their payroll. It's quite easy to activate. The banks will collect it via that deduction code. So we're encouraging employers, if you want to provide this benefit to your members to help them to either purchase property or renovate their property, please, please, please talk to us, and we can get the bank out there to set this up for your members so that they can purchase some property. All right, so those are the benefits that we've got as a fund. Then we've got the two-pot system update. Two-pot was, I think, the only thing we spoke about last year. All you saw was pots and pots and pots from the whole industry. We're happy to say that it was a significant success. We have seen 21,854 claims received from September to Feb. 20,945 of those were paid. Those were paid within, when we looked at the stats yesterday, the bulk is paid within a week of claim. This means that almost 96% of all claims that were received were processed and paid on time. We do have some that have not been paid. It's under 5% at this point in time, and there are reasons for that. So the biggest factor we're seeing is tax. A lot of the claims that are unpaid remain unpaid due to either an invalid or an inactive tax number. And we do engage the members there to say that they need to either visit SARS or give us an updated tax number. And then the second biggest category was Section 37D deduction. So when members claim on the portal, there is a question asking if there's any Section 37D deductions that are applicable. And we saw a lot of members click yes. And on further engagement, it was actually a garnishee order on the salary. So remember, a Section 37D deduction means that there's a court order against the fund for that member that says, "Dear Transport Sector Retirement Fund, please note that the court is attaching 50% of the benefit or whatever percent of the benefit for either a divorce or a maintenance order or an acknowledgement of debt or whatever it is." It is not a deduction from the member's salary. It's not a garnishee order for maintenance or anything like that. So that's where we saw a lot of claims get stuck, and so we needed to verify with the members. Then bank verification. The bank account needs to be in the member's name and linked to their ID number. It can't be the spouse or the pretty young thing they met last week or the brother or his mom or daughter. It's got to be the banking details for the member. Okay, and then lastly, multiple records. There was instances, much less on this fund, where members belong to a previous employer. And so we can see that the ID number is sort of aligned, but the names are different. So on the one employer, we've got NS Smith, and on the other employer, we've got N Seegers, for example. So sometimes it's because they got married, sometimes it's passport holders, sometimes it is just, data errors picking it up. There is an opportunity for the member when they do this, when they log in, to say that actually my name is Nasli Seegers, because we do run it through Home Affairs. If they confirm at that point in time, it will then run the necessary checks and it will sort it out. But sometimes members say no, and then we've got to go and look at that in a bit more detail. So those would be some of the reasons that claims are stuck. If they are, please drop us a note and we'll look into those for you. And I think that's that. So I know it's been a lot of information. Hopefully you've learned a lot in the session this morning. I think what we're going to do now is we're going to stop sharing the screen and we're going to open up for questions. So if you're shy, then you don't need to come off mute. You can just type a question in either the Q&A or the chat. Alternatively, you can put your hand up. So you'll see that you're muted from our side. Once you put your hand up, Bianca will come off mute and let you know that she's unmuted you. And then you'd need to unmute yourself with the mic in the top right-hand corner. And once we've done that, then you will be able to ask your question. I think if we can start in the Q&A box, you'll start responding to questions out of the chat box first, and then once we are ready, then we will start taking questions from the floor. Okay, I'm going to deal with Q&A quickly. Those are the polls. Okay, here's the first one. Bonging Kosi Klongwane is asking, if I lost the job, can I claim on vested, non-vested and vested pots? Yes, sir. If you have values in your vested and non-vested pots, as at the 31st of August 2024, and you leave and you lose your job, you absolutely can claim both of those spots. Because like I said during the presentation, your rights for those spots for withdrawal are still protected. Carol Schwartz is asking if we can share the presentation. Carol will do more than just share the presentation. The recording for the session will also be uploaded. I see Bianca has responded. Tamara's asking for posters and booklets. No, it can be it can be delivered. We are the Transport Sector Retirement Fund. Bianca will take down your details, Tamara. If you can just drop your company name and your contact details, and then she'll engage you in terms of the posters, etc. Danelle is asking, from the employer side, if you appoint a new driver, can the employer have a probation period for this employee before they are registered to the fund? So Danelle, I'll tell you why. You probably can, but I'll tell you why it's not advisable. Our advice is that you put the employee on from day one, so that, remember I gave the example of 1,500 versus 540,000. If you put them on from day one, then you know that they are covered for risk. Then in the event that anything happens during that probation period, you don't have the family coming to you and saying, but why did you not put my husband on the fund? Now we don't have any benefits, etc. So it should be that you put them on from day one rather than waiting for a probation period. Ben, I'm not sure if you want to add there maybe?
Yes, thank you. No, I think that's actually the correct advice. We advise employers to put them on from day one, because the bargaining council, the main agreement, makes the provisions relating to payment and remuneration terms effective from day one. So it's not as if you're allowed to pay a probation employee less. So they're entitled to full benefits from day one.
From day one. Thank you, Ben. Agreed. So Danelle, you're actually protecting yourself as much as you're protecting the member, because it means that you're not exposing yourself for a big risk benefit. Okay. I think let's move to the left. Sandy, if you unmute yourself, I see Bianca has unmuted you. Jenny, it's the same for a temp driver. Sorry, if I can just answer that question quickly. We don't differentiate between temp and permanent and contract, FTCs, whatever. Anybody that's employed as a driver in this industry is entitled to be on the fund. Sandy, good morning.
Good morning. How are you all? Thank you very much for this information. I just have a question about the disability benefits. Just for clarity's sake, you said that you can only claim disability once. So somebody has cancer, they get paid out 3 times their annual salary plus whatever's in their fund when they go on disability. Then they recover from their cancer, they come back and they start working again. Then they obviously starting to contribute to their retirement again, but then something else happens to them and they get knocked over by a car and they cannot work again. Are they then able to be paid 3 times their annual salary again?
It's a completely unrelated disability, then yes. But if it's the same cancer, for example, that's returned, then no.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Sandy. Any other questions? We're open for questions. I see we've responded to all of those in the chat box. It can be anything. It doesn't have to relate to this presentation. The fund is available. The administrator is available. Any questions you have? Okay, Jillian. Jillian's asking, when an employee is promoted and transferring to the company's provident or retirement fund, is an employee allowed to claim the retirement fund, or must the Section 14 process be followed? Good question, Jillian, and thank you for that. So the first point is that when an employee is promoted, we don't necessarily have to move them off of the fund. They can continue, I think, as the first point, to contribute to the Transport Sector Retirement Fund. But let's say you do want to move them to your fund, it must be a Section 14 process, Jillian. If they are still gainfully employed, so they're still employed with you, there's no break in the relationship between employer and employee, and the employer has a fund, it must be a Section 14 transfer that happens. They cannot be allowed to claim because they are still employed. The employer-employee relationship has not been terminated. I hope that clarifies. Okay, then now the funeral benefits that stop at age 70, is that the age of the contributor, not the age of the person you are using the benefit for. I think if I understand you, you're saying if the spouse is 72, can the spouse still be paid for? Is that right then now? So you're saying as long as the member is 70 and contributing, then him and his family will be contributed for. Yes. Yes. Let me come back to you on that one. I think that the benefit ceases at 70 for members and dependents, but we'll get clarity. Pen, do you know offhand?
Yeah, I do actually, Naz.
Okay.
So yes, so it depends on the age of the member. So
Okay.
as soon as the member hits 70, even if the wife is 69, that benefit is not, it's not extended. So it ends with the age, with the main member's age. Yeah.
No. I think the question is if the main member is 65 and let's say he married an older lady, so she's 75 and she passes on, but he's
Oh, the other way
65.
around. Yes.
Yeah,
No,
the other
that's
way
fine.
around.
It's the other way
Okay.
around. It's covered. It's dependent on the main member's age. So if the spouse is
Happiness.
older, yeah, I think
Okay.
that answers it.
Happiness.
Yeah.
Yes. Thanks, Danelle. Ayanda, you had your hand up. We've unmuted you from our side. You can unmute on your side. I don't know if it's Ayanda or Sinikiwe.
Yeah, I think she uses both names. Ayanda, if you can go ahead and unmute on your side.
Yeah,
Hi,
so
how are
far.
you?
Oh, there we go. Hi, Ayanda.
Hi.
Good in you. Is Ayanda correct?
Yes, it's Ayanda.
Ayanda.
Yes. I have a question. If we keep on receiving SMSs regarding our contributions that they haven't been made, and we've checked on our contributions that we have not seen anything for 2025, and every time we receive payments, a few days after, we will keep receiving the same SMSs. What do we do in that situation?
So it sounds like the employer isn't contributing, Ben.
Mm.
Yeah. So Ayanda, that is part of that 13A process that I referred to. So part of the requirements are that we have to notify the members that your employer isn't notifying. As soon as you get those SMSs, you must know the required notices have gone out to the employer. So we do it 30, 60, 90-day letters, which is as per the requirements of the Pension Fund Act. At 110 days of non-compliance, we actually start legal action against the employer. So when I say legal action, I say we actually on top of the employers, we start then, then it's a time that we do refer them to the FSCA. So you must know already that employer at 30 days and 60 days and 90 days has been referred to the FSCA as a non-compliant employer. At 110 days, we start the process if the employer hasn't phoned us. If an employer phones us in between and they're still non-compliant, you'll still get the letters and you'll still get the SMSs, I should say, because we're required to advise you. But you must know that's part of the process that we're working with the employers. So we either get them to sign acknowledgements of debts, or we also refer some employers when they really don't communicate with us. We refer them for criminal investigation to the NPA and to SAPS. But that's part of our 13A process. So as long as you keep on getting those SMSs, you must know that we're on top of the employer as well as those notices as you get those. When you stop getting those SMSs and you're not getting contributions, then you must contact us to say, listen, contributions are still not being paid, but I'm not being advised. But that is part of our 13A process that you're getting that information. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Good.
It's been, and what's important is that you need to say to your employer that in the event that anything happens to you or any of your colleagues, they will be held liable. So basically the employer is deducting from your salary, but they're not paying it across to the fund. You've got to keep asking them the question, why are you not paying my contributions across?
Okay,
So,
thank you.
because the fund is doing actions from their side, but you guys
Yes.
as the members, this is your money. So you also have a right to say to the employer, the fund has let me know that you're not paying across. Why are you stealing my money?
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ayanda. Good question. Ponginkosi is asking, sorry to come back again, what is the difference between non-vested and vested pots? Okay, so the non-vested and vested pots, Ponginkosi, you obviously must mind lots of talks about two-pot last year. The non-vested and vested are the contributions or the amounts that we had before the advent of two-pot. So non-vested is the pot. Let me just bring up the presentation. I think it will be easier to share the presentation again. Let me just go back. Okay, hopefully you can see my screen. Okay, so sorry. Let's put this down. Diana. Can't get this thing to move. Yeah. So if you go into your member app, you've got a retirement pot and a savings pot. Then you've got a non-vested pot and a vested pot. So all four of these pots are payable at retirement. On the retirement pot, you can't access that until retirement. Savings you can access annually. The vested and the non-vested pots are split. So your vested pot means that you can take all of that in cash at retirement. So the big difference between the two is on retirement. Your non-vested pot will be subject to the de minimis threshold. So it will be contributions from March 2018 to date, and it will be subject to the 1/3, 2/3 rule. So that's the difference between the vested and the non-vested pots, whereas the vested pot, you'll continue to have ability to access that even at retirement. Okay, that's that one. What should the employer do from their side if they are in a position of not being able to pay? Pen, can I ask you to take that one?
Yeah, sure, Naz. So Danelle, what we do is contact us straight away. You first of all got every employer has been allocated an administrator in the front office. Contact your front office administrator as soon as you've got challenges. We cannot agree for you. So the fund is required in terms of the Pension Fund Act and the main agreement to ensure that the contributions are paid. But we can work with you to come up with a payment plan. It can't be an indefinite. We can't agree on a reduction of what's owing, but at least we can help you get it in line, and we can come up with a payment plan for you that will suit you. And also, obviously, what we do is work with you. So, if you're 6 months in arrears, we try and get you up to date immediate, start getting the current contributions up to date. So at least you can reinstate the risk benefits. And the historic ones, we try and come up with a payment plan that will give you a little more time to pay. But it's important to note that we can't compromise and say, listen, your contributions are 60,000 and we agree on 40. That we can't do. But the payment plan to assist you with cash flow, we try and do that as much as possible. I hope that answers your question, Danelle.
Thank you, Pen. Okay, then we've got, we have an employee who has been diagnosed with brain cancer. What is the first step in order to claim disability, as he is still in hospital and very confused? Can we as the company do the claim on his behalf, or can his spouse apply on his behalf? Good question, Rita. So you definitely need to notify the fund that there's a potential disability claim. So as soon as you can, you fill in the disability claim forms with all the information that you have, and send it to the fund, and then we'll engage you in the disability process. There will be stuff that we need, so we'll work together with you and the spouse to claim for his disability, but you're absolutely able to contact us and engage us on that process. So yes, please get in touch as soon as possible. Pen, there's a follow-up from Danelle. It says then the employer won't be taken legal action towards if there's a payment plan in order.
Correct, Danelle. So what will happen is, because even on our reports to the FSCA and non-compliant employers, we give an indication of who has signed AODs and who's keeping up to date. So we won't take any further action, and we'll manage it internally between us. So, and then the FSCA just wants to know that we're managing with you and making sure that we're helping you get compliant. So we won't take legal action against you. But if you fail to pay, obviously the league will reinstate the legal action and continue to proceed against you.
Okay, she says, thank you. All right. Bianca, if we can just make a note when we send out the presentation, can we please add the beneficiary nomination form, and then also just send a link to the website where employers can access all of the forms. So Rita can go and pull down the disability claim forms, etc. But then if they save the link to the website, then they'll always be able to go and access the claim forms that they need.
We'll definitely do. Thank you, Nez.
Thanks, B. I think so far we've answered all of the questions.
Yeah, seems like we have done so. Great.
Okay.
Any last questions? Anyone?
So I think just go back to the presentation
Okay.
quickly.
Bongo's hand is up.
Okay, I'll take it now. Let me just say that there is a webinar coming up on the 23rd of April, and their pen will really unpack non-compliance, how the fund partners with you, what steps need to be taken, how that process works, etc. So we will be talking to you again next month on the 23rd of April, but in the interim, we'll be sharing the presentation, and any questions that you have, don't hesitate. You can reach out to either the fund or SALT, and we'll engage and help you out. I see we've got two hands. So Bonginkosi, we have unmuted from our side. Please, can you unmute from your side, and then you can ask us the question.
Hi all.
Hi, sir.
Yes, sorry, I got a question here because I'm a little bit confused on the two-pot system. Last time they said you can get 30% of what you got, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, like example, like another example. Let's say I got 300,000 in all, so I like from 30,000 up. I mean, from 30,000 down to 2,000, if I'm not mistaken. But this year I see on the savings pot, it's not 30% of what I got now, or somewhere we get confused there.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of confusion. So let me clarify. So we moved money into your savings pot. It sounds like you've already withdrawn. And then that was seed capital, right? So we moved 30,000 Rand into your savings pot as seed capital, right? Not 30% of your benefit. It was capped. It was a capped amount, yeah? And then every month we add 1/3, 2/3 to the pots. So 2/3 goes to your retirement pot and 1/3 to your savings pot. So let's say you contribute 1,500 Rand, yeah? Then 1,000 Rand will go to the retirement pot and 500 Rand will go to the savings pot. So if you've withdrawn already, then every month we'll add the 500 Rand, 500 Rand, 500 Rand. But that's all that will go to your savings pot. We're not moving bulk money again. That was a once-off in 2024. So the seeding only happened once. And it was restricted. It was there was a capped amount, and then every month you add contributions to the savings pot. So it's only what you put in there every month that will be available to withdraw again.
No problem. Thanks.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Elias, we've unmuted you from our side. Can I ask you to unmute, please? Bonginkosi, you can mute again. Thank you, sir.
Greetings,
Morning,
everyone.
Elias.
I just want to ask for, I need clarity, actually. Actually, I have two different funds. In other words, I once worked for an employer who was using SALT, and then I got a recent job that I was working at. They were using, let me just say Fund B. No, let me not mention the name. So now that I'm not working, I'm unemployed. Can I claim from both funds, or is it advisable to claim from just one?
Well, if you're not working at the moment and you need I don't know what your financial situation looks like. So we're not able to give, that sort of advice. The funds are there to save for retirement. But if you're not employed and you really need access to funds, then you can look at claiming from either of the funds. Remember that if a newer fund has a retirement pot that has contributions allocated to it, then you won't be able to claim the retirement pot, but you will be able to claim out of the savings pots for either of the funds. So I'm not sure what the details are of your financial situation. You are absolutely entitled to claim, but we wouldn't necessarily advise it, specifically if you're still in the job market looking for other work, because the intention is to save for retirement. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question. You are able to claim from both, though, if you would want to.
Okay, so can I ask another question?
Yes, go for it.
Okay. I just need an understanding. The provident fund is and the retirement fund. What's the difference there?
It's the same thing, sir. So a retirement fund is a broader term. A provident fund is a particular type of fund, but with the default regulations having been introduced, they more or less aligned to what pension funds do now. So pension and provident funds and retirement annuities are all types of retirement funds. They all retirement funds.
Also, basically, it's just one and the same thing.
It's basically, yes. Now with the new regulations in, it's basically one and the same thing, sir.
Oh, okay. No, thanks. No further questions.
You're welcome. In Q&A, I think there's a question there. Let me see. It's red on my side. Okay, that's Ayanda. We have responded to Ayanda. Okay, then I think, Elias, your hand is still up here. Okay, it's gone down now. All right. B, I think we've answered all the questions that we have.
Yes, as it stands, we have done that. Also just double checking from my end. The Q&A we don't have. The chat, we have covered everything, and currently no one's hand is up. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Then I think from my side, thank you very much to everyone. Sorry, B. Thank you very much to everybody for your time. We will circulate the presentation, the link to the fund's website, as well as the beneficiary nomination form. And I think I'll hand over to the fund for some final comments. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Naz. Thanks, Naz. Thanks, Bianca. So once again, thank you, everybody, for attending these sessions. You know, the more we communicate and the more we create awareness, the better it is, not only for employers, but for members as well. And I always put an emphasis on this to say, you know, this is such an important part of our social security system. And people tend to forget that. It is fundamental for us to ensure that our members, when they retire, and our fellow citizens, when they retire, or have a comfortable retirement, because we know how difficult it is. And the more we commit to these type of funds, and we commit to ensuring that we contribute on behalf of our members, that we protect our members, that we invest our members' monies correctly, the more responsibility we're creating towards them. And, you know, we're protecting them. You don't want them living off a social security system when they've worked hard during their lives. So it's so important to get our employers and our members on the same page. And of course, obviously, all our service providers, because between the fund and its service providers, SALT and a fortune of other service providers, our motivation is the same. Retirement benefits and giving our members a good retirement. Sorry, apologies. So, Naz, thank you once again. And obviously, I encourage anybody to, if you've got questions, both front office, back office, SALT is available. They've got teams of people. We're available. You know how to get hold of us. We are always available to help everybody interested or stakeholders and contributors to the fund. Thank you, Naz, and thank you once again for a stunning webinar, Bianca and Naz. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Penny and Nez. I guess this brings us to the end of the presentation. A big thank you once again to our speakers for their time as well as the expertise. And please have yourselves a lovely day further. And I hope to see you all on the 23rd of the next 23rd of April, where we'll discuss a hot topic around the non-compliance issues. So yes, thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.